Hey guys, thank you for checking out this video. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are blessed, and I hope God blesses our study here into the final empire. What is the world going to look like at the very end? And what is the empire of the time of Jacob's trouble going to look like? The empire that the Antichrist will be ruling. Well, let's take a look at what the Bible says. So we are going to look back into the ancient past, and this is from the book of Daniel. Daniel 7, verses 2 through 3. Daniel had this vision of beasts coming up out of the sea, and this was about 600 years before Christ. But this vision lays out all the empires of the world. Daniel 7, 2 through 3. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Before we dive into these beasts, let's look at also a parallel dream that the king of Babylon had that Daniel had interpreted. And this happened earlier. Daniel 2:32 through 34. Not only did the king have this dream, but the king forced Daniel to actually interpret or tell him what the dream was before he interpreted. That way the king would know that the interpretation would be true. So Daniel says, This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. So we're going to now compare and contrast these two visions, and we'll start with the first beast to rise up out of the sea. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So the lion as a symbol, the winged lion, is a symbol of Babylon. And Babylon was the world empire during the time of Daniel, and from 626 BC through 539 BC. And the vision of the statue corroborates this. Daniel 2:37 through 38 says, Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Now, there's something interesting about this vision, specifically about the vision of the beast, and that comes in here, the last part of Daniel 7:4, where it says, Made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So throughout the Bible, there's made reference to a king of Babylon as a type of the final king of the final empire onto the Antichrist himself. But not exactly the Antichrist. I think the king of Babylon is the destroyed incarnation of the Antichrist. The next empire, after the lion, is described in Daniel 7:5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. So this kingdom is Persia, from 558 BC to 330 BC. The statue doesn't make much discussion of it. It just says another kingdom inferior to thee, coming up after the kingdom of Babylon. Now, the next animal that rises up out of the sea in Daniel 7:6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So this is the Greek Empire from 331 BC to, and this is a departure from a lot of interpretations, to the present. And we'll go over why that might be an interpretation. Another interpretation is that Greece ended when Rome took over, and that the 4th beast is Rome. In the visions of the statue in Daniel 2:39, a 3rd kingdom of brass shall bear rule over all the earth. Okay, so why do we think Greece could be in power all the way to today? Let's look at a couple parts of those 2 verses we just looked at. Daniel 2:39, the statue vision. Key in here on shall bear rule over all the earth. And then Daniel 7:6, as dominion was given to it. Now, we're not looking at another vision that Daniel had in great detail, but we'll reference it here. So in Daniel 8, Daniel has a vision that goes into detail of the end of the Persian Empire and the start of the Greek Empire. And in Daniel 8:21 through 23, it says, And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. This is Alexander the Great. Now that being broken, Alexander died early, when he was in his 30s, whereas 4 stood up for it. So the Greek Empire was divided into 4. That's the 4 heads of the leopard. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And this is the interesting part. And in the latter time of their kingdom, So this is the kingdom of Greece still. These are the four kings, the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, and that should remind us of something. A king of fierce countenance, that being the Antichrist, and understanding dark sentences, shall stand up. The Antichrist stands up at the end of the Greek Empire, the end of this third empire, and not at the end of the fourth. So if the fourth was actually Rome, then he should be standing up at the end of the Roman Empire, but he's actually standing up at the end of the Greek Empire. And transgressors are come to a full. Let's look at Romans 11:25. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. Then blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. So we get the latter time and the fullness, both of the Gentiles and the transgressors come in. Another thing you note is that basically all world empires after Greece have been very Greek in nature, very democratic in nature, a lot of Greek statues, iconography. The Roman gods were basically the Greek gods renamed. You look at all the Capitol buildings of the United States of America, the culmination of the Greek Empire system, and it's still very Greek in its appearance in all ways. So that's why the Greek Empire might be all the way through today. Now, if the fourth beast is Rome, that's okay too. But what if that fourth beast is the Antichrist's world empire, a future empire? And let's look at Daniel 2:40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Now the vision of the beast coming up out of the ocean, or out of the sea, Daniel 7:7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth that devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So that, I think, is actually the Antichrist empire right at the end. So what is the current situation of this beast that's going to come upon the world in the form of the Antichrist empire? Well, right now it's actually being suppressed by Babylon, Mystery Babylon, the culmination actually of the Greek Empire, the culmination of all the world empires. Remember, the king of Babylon is ruling over all the empires. So Revelation 17:1-3, we see, And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is that beast, and the woman, who is Mystery Babylon, is sitting upon it, so she basically is ruling over it and suppressing it. In Revelation 17:7, And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And then Revelation 17:9, And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And 17:18, And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So the woman, Babylon, the United States of America, rules over the world. And this beast can't come forth as it's being suppressed by Babylon. Now, when will this beast come forth? When will the Antichrist be revealed? We know he'll be revealed after the rapture, but before the day of the Lord. And I think those two things might be almost right on top of each other, so his revealing will come quickly, I think. In Daniel 11:3, it says, And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. 2 Thessalonians 2:2-3 says, That ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand, that's the day of the Lord. That no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So the man of sin is the Antichrist. So the Antichrist is revealed, then the day of the Lord comes. The falling away first, that could be 2 types of falling away. It could be basically people falling away from God. But that also can mean a departure. That could be the rapture that is speaking of there. And more explicitly, we see the rapture in 2 Thessalonians 2:6-8. And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time. So what's stopping him from being revealed? For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And he there is the Holy Spirit, which is in all believers. So when the church is removed, then the Antichrist will be revealed. Then the day of the Lord will come. And then that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. As soon as the wicked is revealed, I believe the destruction of Babylon comes. In Jeremiah 51 and in Jeremiah 50, we see great description of the destruction of Babylon. There's 2 whole chapters given to it, and there's 2 whole chapters given in the book of Revelation, so this is highly important, obviously. Jeremiah 51:25. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. Mountains are often kingdoms, saith the Lord, which destroyest all the earth. So Babylon rules over the whole earth. Remember, the third empire has dominion over the whole earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. Now, Revelation 8:8 is describing a second trumpet, which sometimes is thought to be a burning asteroid, but I think it is simply the destruction of Babylon, because it matches exactly the words in other parts of the Bible. Revelation 8:8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. And in Revelation 17:16 we see, and the 10 horns, so these 10 horns which are part of this beast which is being suppressed by Babylon, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, being Babylon, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And Revelation 18:2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So, Babylon's destroyed. But does the Antichrist stand up and immediately rule? I don't think so. I think his empire is destroyed immediately or at the same time as well. And this is really interesting. We see in Genesis 3:15, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So Jesus is going to bruise the head of the wicked. Numbers 24:17. I shall see him, but not now. This is a prophecy of Jesus. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. Deuteronomy 32:39. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. And Psalm 68:21. But God shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such a one as goeth on still in his trespasses. So then we see in Daniel 11:3-4 how as soon as the Antichrist stands up, his kingdom is broken. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided to the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. In Revelation 13:14. And deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do, in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and to live. And finally, Revelation 17:8-11, describing the beast. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. And when it is not, is this like right during the time that John is having the vision? I think that is. I don't think it's back in 70 AD. I think it's like the time of the vision that John's having. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, so those are kingdoms, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So this beast is wounded, and is out of existence, but he's going to come back. And there's one more very interesting reference. There's many references, but here's another one. In Psalm 83, this is about the attack on Israel from all her surrounding neighbors. And God is saying, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kishon. What happened there? This is Judges 5:26. She put her hand to the nail, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. And with the hammer she smote Sisera, she smote off his head, when she had pierced and stricken through his temples. So here's the head wound. And you can look in Judges 4-5 for Jacob's trouble, the defeat of Sisera and Jabin in the valley of Armageddon, at the brook of Kishon, and peace for 40 years. And in Judges 6-8 for Jacob's trouble again, and the defeat of the Midianites in the valley of Armageddon again, and peace for 40 years. So the Antichrist rises, and his kingdom is immediately destroyed. He destroys Babylon, and God does as well, of course. And then his kingdom is immediately destroyed, and that is it. But no, because in Revelation 13:3 we see his deadly wound was healed. In Revelation 13:14 we see which had the wound by the sword and did live. So the Antichrist rises. He rises back at about the midpoint of tribulation. So at the very beginning of tribulation, the very beginning of the day of the Lord is rapture, and then Antichrist revealed, and then day of the Lord, Babylon is destroyed, the Antichrist kingdom is destroyed, the Antichrist is killed. Midpoint of Revelation, so the first half of Revelation is just hell on earth. Men are more rare than fine gold, and it's just utter desolation. The two witnesses are preaching, and but then the Antichrist rises back up at the midpoint. Revelation 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and kill them. In Revelation 13:1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. So now these horns are crowned. We saw in 17 they weren't crowned yet, because that was before his destruction of Babylon, and before the start right at the start of the day of the Lord. And then Revelation 17:8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So he's going to be killed and come back up out of the bottomless pit at the midpoint. So let's look at Revelation 13, where this beast is described, and we're going to compare and contrast it to Daniel 7 and a little bit to other places in Daniel. 13:2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So this should look familiar. This is a combination of all the beasts that came before. The first was like a lion. There's the lion. The second like a bear. There's the bear up above. And another like a leopard. We have the leopard up above. And then the dragon giving him his power. If we look in Daniel 8:24, we see, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So this beast is described as having 7 heads in Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw the beast rise up out of the sea having 7 heads. So in Revelation 17:3 we see that the beast has 7 heads. In Revelation 17:9 through 11 we're told what these heads are. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So let's go back and look at the pictures of the beasts here, the very first slide. So 7 heads. Well, we have the lion is head 1, the bear is head 2, the leopard is heads 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the 4th beast is head 7. So there's the 7 heads. And when John was writing, the last head of beast 3 was ruling, and then there was going to be another head coming, head number 7, which would continue for a short space. We see as soon as the Antichrist stands up, his kingdom's taken away, so it is or was not, is not. And then he rises from the abyss, the bottomless pit, and becomes the 8th, and is of the 7. So there's that picture that is being shown unto John in his visions. So that's the 7 heads. Now, let's look at the 10 horns. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And in Daniel 7:7, we see that final beast coming up out of the waters, having 10 horns. And Daniel 7:20, it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, that being the Antichrist, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So the 10 horns have to exist right when the Antichrist is rising, because 3 of them fall down. There's been interpretations that the 4th beast is the Roman Empire, and the 10 horns are 10 revivals of the Roman Empire, but I think they all have to be here at the end, so I don't think that's necessarily correct. Daniel 7:24, and the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Daniel 17:3, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So the woman is on this beast, suppressing it. In Revelation 17:12 through 13, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet. So at the point of 17, they hadn't received their kingdom, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have 1 mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Now, the beast has 10 crowns, but only at the point of Revelation. There's no crowns given to it until It rises out of the abyss. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Daniel 7:24, those are 10 kings, and Revelation 17, those are 10 kings, and as of Revelation 17, they had not been crowned yet. Blasphemous this last empire is. So Revelation 17:3, a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy. Revelation 13:1, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Revelation 7:20, or Daniel 7:20, and a mouth that spake very great things. Daniel 11:36, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. And Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So he is given power only for the last half of Jacob's trouble. There's no power given to this final empire in the first half, because I don't think it exists in the first half. It doesn't rise until the midpoint. Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So that is a year and 2 years and a half a year, 3.5 years, 42 months. Daniel 12:7. Daniel 12:7. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth for ever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And here is another seemingly odd reference. In 2 Kings 2:24, Elijah is traveling to a city that is renowned for its idolatry, and he's being mocked by, it says children in King James Version, but it could be young men of the city who are mocking him. And he turns back to them, and he looked at them, and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood. I think that's the Antichrist and false prophet picture type, and tear 42 children of them. So there's 42 again. And finally, Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. The first thing he does when he rises out of the bottomless pit to begin this 42 months is he kills the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses are on earth, and they are sharing the word of God for the first half of Jacob's trouble. That ends in Revelation 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. So what's going on here on earth during that last, 3.5 years? God only knows. The angels are fallen. The fallen angels are upon the earth. The mark of the beast is being promulgated. You can't buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast. You'll be put to death if you don't worship the image of the beast. Daniel 2:41 through 43 says this is like the last part of the statue vision that Nebuchadnezzar had. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, forasmuch as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So are the fallen angels trying to mix with humankind? Humans being clay, fallen angels being iron. Is this also a picture of the fact that this kingdom is destroyed, broken, and then comes back strong again in the last half of Jacob's trouble? Could be one or both. Genesis 6:4, we see there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, the angels, came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which are of old, men of renown. So this has happened before. Will it happen again? Leviticus 19:19, we're warned, he shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed. Neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. I think these are pictures to be careful about mingling with the fallen angels. This empire of the Antichrist is making war on the saints, and it's not a good time. So how is it making war on the saints if the saints have been raptured at the beginning of Jacob's trouble? Well, there's been 3.5 years of the preaching of the 2 witnesses. I'm sure new saints are coming in. New people are starting to believe, but they're going to have a hard time during Jacob's trouble, and the Antichrist is going to come and try and destroy them all. Daniel 7:21. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time. And Daniel 8:24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. He's, got the power of Satan by this time. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Daniel 11:33, and they that understand, those are the believers, among the people, shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. Daniel 12:7, it shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people. Revelation 12:17, and the dragon, that is Satan, was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. So that could be the remnant of the woman being Israel, who have come to believe in Jesus. And those are saints, once you believe in Jesus, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Revelation 13:7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Well, finally, at the end of those 3.5 years, at the end of the 7 years of Jacob's trouble, the final empire is defeated. The final empire of man is defeated. Daniel 2:44. And the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Daniel 7:22. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Revelation 17:14. These shall make war with the Lamb, these are the kings it's speaking of, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And Revelation 19:19 through 20. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army, that being Jesus. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, all the way back 600 years before Christ, 2,600 years ago, Daniel interpreted it as thus. Daniel 2:44 through 45. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So that is the last empire of man, and God wins at the end of Jacob's trouble. And we saw those people who weren't written in the book of life being deceived. How do you get written in the book of life? You believe. In Acts 16:30 through 31. They said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved in thy house. And John 3:16, For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And what are we believing? We're believing that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures. That's 1 Corinthians 15:3 through 4. We don't go to heaven because we are good. We go to heaven because he is good. John 5:24. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word, and believeth on him that sent me, hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life. May God bless you, and may God watch over you, and may God keep you. And if you haven't believed yet, please come to your decision soon. You're not guaranteed another day, and this last great kingdom is coming upon us before we know it. God bless you, and I will see you again next time.